So if you guys want a project like this or you want to do anything to your regular car, grab the Rod and Supply catalog. Everything in there to show you exactly what you need to make something like this, and it'll give you the measurements. It's all right there. So make sure to grab a catalog, look through it, then you can make the parts that we've made.
Welcome to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating. On this episode of Sam's Garage, Travis's Jeep gets new rear axles and gears to match the oversized tires they installed. Sam and Doug continue their maintenance on the Saleen Mustang restoration project. Bob Douglas helps Sam install new front tie rods and sway bar links in the brothers' Chevy HEMI truck project. And Sam and his brothers complete the interior with new door panels and seats. Travis's Jeep is back at Sam's Garage to have the rear end upgraded to match the huge 43-inch tires they installed. The rear axle kit comes with new gears and axles and will be running a better gear ratio to match the tires. These axles are just a temporary solution until Kevin beefs up to the 1-ton axles.
So we got Kevin and Travis from Lokar Performance back in the shop with Kevin's 392 Jeep Wrangler. We got 513 gears. Usually 513s is a nice gear setup for a 37 to even maybe a 40, right?
Yeah, I think these axles kind of limit out at a 40 even with these chromoly shafts. The 43s was just by chance we had them. The other tires weren't working anymore. 37s were too small for the lift. I didn't want it to look really dumb. It's not been off-road. Just tooling around, we're okay. But I don't want to blow this transmission, so I thought, let's put these gears in there, make the axles used for somebody else when we're done with them.
Yep.
It's going to run a reasonable 37, 40-inch tire, something like that.
And so we went to Yukon Gears and got their Stage 4 kit, which includes the ring and pinion, the installation kit, a heavy-duty cover, and the axles with all the items we need to make the axles bolt into this Jeep. We're going to also be doing the front next week.
Well, we're just taking these calipers off because we'll have to have the calipers off to get to the axles. Just hanging them on the coil, get them out of the way.
On the 392, they actually put a higher gear in it where most of them would come with like a 411. Any upgrade in the tire size, 37s to 40s, is going to really make you want to have a lower gear ratio. So doing this swap will make these axles more useful in the future when they're in another Jeep, because we're going to put the 1-ton axles in here eventually. Nice little upgrade and we can go 4-wheeling.
Here we are about to remove the ring and pinion, but before we do, we're going to take the factory measurements, as in lash on the ring and pinion. Usually you see about 10, we got about 5. That's why it's a good idea to check it before you do it, because I'm gonna give it back 5, but usually it's 10. So here we got 5, and then you wanna check the drag on the pinion. You want about 16. If you reuse your crush washer, let's say you're doing a pinion seal, you're gonna add 2 inch-pound. We're gonna spin it until we see the number before it starts to move. And in this case, we have 22. That's a Jeep for you. We're gonna put them right back to factory specs and see if we have a nice silent application. It appears that none of our tools will work on taking the bearing off, so we had to use the good old-fashioned Ziz wheel. That's right, we used a Ziz wheel. It's okay for all you guys out there who think it's not. It's totally fine. Just stay away from the shaft. We did not scar our shaft in any way. We got close to the end of the race, and then we tapped it with a punch, broke it apart, slid it off, and now the new bearing can go in just like that. So what we're doing here is we got the pattern on 3 teeth. Cover the teeth really well so that when you get your pattern, you can actually see your pattern. What we're going to do is when you get to where the pinion is, you want to have resistance on the pinion itself so that you get an actual pattern. You see the pattern is almost in all the way deep. We have a slight gap right at the very end. Our backlash is good. We got a good contact point. Put our Yukon Gears axles together. It comes with all the pieces we need, the reluctor wheel for the ABS, the bearing, the race, the spacer, and the bracket that bolts it to the Dana 44. We're gonna put the two together, then we can go ahead and finalize the suspension and the rear end. Still has a lot of work to do back here. The right rear still needs to be put back together. Next week, you wanna join us because we're gonna tackle the front. We're gonna do the same thing in the front, but we got different axles up front with U-joints, so you don't wanna miss that.
Sam and Doug get ready to replace the faulty head unit in the Saleen Mustang Cobra. The original unit had a short and was not working correctly. Then they move on to tackle the combination switch to resolve an issue with the turn signals.
So how does that top look?
That top looks absolutely fantastic, Sam.
Kenny did a good job.
He did a wonderful job.
And going with the cloth made it a lot nicer looking. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna fix the radio. It was not working. We had to pull it out, have it rebuilt. Now we got it back. We're gonna reinstall it. We're gonna show you guys how to do a Ford radio install on your Ford. We're also gonna go and continue doing the diagnostics on our emergency flashers. We replaced the flasher relay last time. It really didn't do the job, so I think I'm gonna be looking at the combination switch. What do you think?
There's nothing better than the top down, listening to some old tunes, your head bopping on as you're going on down the road. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that when you go ahead and pull the radio, it's real important. Move it down. Right here is a clip. By moving it out, see how it moves it up and down. This is what goes ahead and holds it in. So you push it into locks, and then you do that on both sides, allow you to remove the radio. The tool that we have is something we just made up. We took a coat hanger, stripped it, make sure it just fits right in our slots here. You can also buy these at an auto supply, or you can even get them on Amazon. You just slide them in, then after you have it, move it. It'll allow it to go ahead and release. One on both sides, move them out, and the radio will come right out. Well, Sam is putting the radio in, and I'm enjoying watching him get frustrated. You're working in a real tight space, and the big thing when you're doing stuff like that is just take your time. Walk away from it for a little while, then come on back. Sit down, relax, then come back. It's always easier to do the second time.
Looks good, works good, everything worked out nice.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. Let's go ahead and fire it up and see what we think.
It's pretty incredible how good it sounds considering the speakers are 27 years old.
Yeah, it really is, Sam. I mean, it's a great sound system. I wanted to keep everything stock. It sounds good, works great. CDs working. What more could you ask?
Now let's fix your hazard lights.
Okay.
Well, the flasher on this car, because it's from 1979, is incorporated in the multifunction switch. All right, so we have to remove it. To remove it, you got to remove the surrounds around the steering wheel. The bottom plastic piece had one little bolt back here. So because of that bolt back there, you got to remove both panels of the knee bolster. And then you have to remove the cylinder key ignition. You got to pull it out because you got to get to the Torx that are on the top and bottom of that switch. Now, it's very important that when you guys are working with the Ford connector, these old Ford connectors, you've got tabs on both sides of the connector. And you have to undo the tabs on both sides and pull it out. You need 3 hands, all right?
Sam, the question I have for you is, where'd you get the third hand?
The third hand, I bought one.
Yeah,
on eBay. It's on its way.
That works.
Until then, I need yours. Does it work?
Yeah, Sam, they work. I'm amazed. I watched you work on it, so I'm impressed.
Me too. I didn't think I could get it done.
I didn't either.
All right, so today we knocked out the stereo and we fixed the hazard lights by installing a new multifunction switch, and we had the radio rebuilt.
Everything looks fantastic as far as on the multifunction switch. I mean, you did a great job.
Thank you so much. And they're all Motorcraft parts. Next week, what we're going to do is add some beauty to this by taking care of the wheels. I'm going to have a good friend of mine, Sean, come in and revamp them, giving it new surface along with new paint.
Sam, when you were talking about adding beauty to this, I thought you were talking about me getting in the driver's seat.
I didn't want to blow up your head. After years of development and testing, NHOU is proud to offer their best formula yet. Entirely biodegradable and is non-toxic and safe to all environments. The formulation meets or exceeds all EPA regulatory requirements, making it ideal for state and town municipalities. NHOU Enviro provides superior resistance to water washout and will stay in place longer than any other undercoating product. Its rust-preventing characteristics, corrosion inhibitors, perform equally to NHOU's #1 oil undercoating formulation. Whether you live in an environmentally sensitive area, drive a hybrid or electric vehicle, or simply want to protect your vehicle or marine equipment from rust in the most eco-responsible way, NHOU Enviro is the first and only undercoating formulated with the planet in mind. As a non-toxic,
Welcome back to more Sam's Garage, presented by NHOU. Bob Douglas from Rod End Supply is in the garage to help Sam install some new custom front tie rods and sway bar end links in the Chevy HEMI truck project. The new front tie rods will be stronger and more reliable than the originals, and the new sway bar links will provide plenty of adjustability for fine-tuning the suspension.
This week, Bob and I from Rod End Supply are going to install everything we talked about last week when it comes to rod ends and custom making parts for your vehicle. We're going to be making new tie rods and sway bar end links. Well, we have a 99 S10 here,
Yes.
Standard tie rods with a sleeve, thin. We're going to go back with a thicker sleeve with your rod ends on it. Should give me a lot more life and a better feel for the steering.
Yep.
And then the sway bar, as you can see, we got a UMI lower control arm. It's going to take a rod end and a standard bolt up top. And you brought everything for that.
On this particular vehicle, the driver's side is longer than the passenger side, so you have to always remember that when you're setting things up. What we're going to do now is we're going to take the rod ends, screw the rod ends, adjust them out to where they're the same dimensions, so we'll be real close as far as the alignment. Always use never sees in the threads, that way you are able to adjust them fairly easy when you need to. Now these tie rods have a right and left hand thread. The center tube on the standard units, they also had a right and left hand thread. That way you can adjust them without taking the bolts loose, knocking them down, and then twisting them out. Same thing with the tube that we've just made. We've got a left hand end on one end, and we've got a right hand end on the other end. And how we can tell as far as whether a right hand thread or a left hand thread rod end is you look at it. If the thread is sloping up to the right, it's a right hand thread. If it slopes up to the left, it's a left hand thread. Normally when I install them, I try to put the left hand thread on the left hand side where my arm is. Right hand on the right hand side.
Got it.
If you do that, then you're always in sync.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
The reason why we drilled out was on account of this. It comes from the factory as a tapered stud. We have some tapered studs, but we never had this size. So therefore we're using our standard bolt stud, and so therefore we have to drill these out for whatever size the bolt is. In this case, the bolt is 5/8.
Bob and I have the tie rods installed along with the sway bar end links. And the tie rods right here, why do you put that hex on the shaft of the bolt?
Because on a standard tie rod that's on the cars, a lot of times after they've been on the car for quite some time, you go ahead and try to take the nut off, and all this thing does is want to spin. So it's very difficult sometimes to get off. When we make our studs to go in these rod ends, we put a hex on it, and that way you can put a wrench on it, that way you can actually take it off.
And you're using a nylon nut, so you have to hold it.
We use the nylon lock nuts too.
On the sway bar end links, we have adjustability. It's all ready to go. They are adjustable. First thing I did was put the bolt through, sandwich the sway bar with the bushings along with the washers. I tightened that portion down by holding the nut and tightening the bolt until I saw a nice squeeze, no air gap, but don't kill the bushings when you're doing this either. Put a nice squeeze on them, then went ahead and put the bottom nut on to lock that nut in place, Put this nut on first, then you can put on your rod end. And you can put it on, there's a lot of adjustment there. If you want to adjust it up and down, you simply leave this locking nut loose and you can take the bolt. Even though you've sandwiched the sway bar, you're still loose enough to where you can turn that bolt and move it up and down. And you got yourself a nice sway bar end link with a rod end. It's gonna last a lot longer than those bushed ends.
Everything here is all done together, so it's an assembly.
We got another successful project done with Bob from Rod End Supply. We made new tie rods and we took care of the sway bar end links. I didn't know what I was gonna do there, but he had the answer for me. Thank you so much.
I'm glad everything worked out. Looks like you've got a very good, safe system now,
Absolutely.
and it should hold up for years.
Way more than it had the regular factory tie rod ends.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a little less expensive in the long run.
Yes, it will.
Sam's brothers are back to help install the interior in the brothers Chevy HEMI truck project. They start by installing the new black leather door panels, followed up with a matching black leather bench seat. With the seat installed, this trio are that much closer to driving this truck down the road.
Got the brothers back in the studio. We're continuing on with the brothers Chevy HEMI project, and this week we're gonna knock out the interior. We're gonna do carpet, seats, rails, we're gonna do door panels, and a headliner. You guys ready to do this?
I am ready.
This is probably gonna be the easiest of all the segments we've done together.
That was a pretty long list, though.
Man, you'd think being veterans and doing this for 30 years, they taught me how to do this, and here they are complaining about it. So we're gonna get to work now.
So with the bench seat, we first took the rails, installed those on the bench seat, and then took the frame, bolted it up to the rails. We also made sure that we connected the rails with the cable that they gave us so that when you actuate it, both rails work at the same time and you could actually move the seat forwards and backwards. Once we got the frame on the rails, we were able to bolt the seat into the truck. So one tip when installing the bench, guys, is we had 2 holes already pre-drilled and tapped for us. So we dropped hardware into the front holes and we marked our back holes, took our bench out, drilled our holes in the back, put our bench back in, and then dropped our hardware in and locked our seat down.
Arsh and I are getting ready to install the door panel from Brothers Truck Parts. This is by UMI, very nice piece, leather. It comes already set with holes where you're gonna put your hardware. Everywhere there's a door handle, your window crank, everywhere, okay? It comes with a template, and that template is for you to put holes on your door so you can use their hardware. I went ahead and put the holes in. We use self-tappers. We're gonna go through old school. Now, there are covers for the bottoms of the doors that you put in. It's a little access panel. Unfortunately, they're on back order, so we're gonna put the door panel in, wait for them to come back. We'll install them because it takes 5 minutes to uninstall the door panel. Then we'll install the door panel again, putting a couple of pieces of hardware through the access panel. Anytime you guys are installing carpet in any vehicle, take your time, do it right, make sure that you cut it correctly. Use a brand new razor blade and use multiple razor blades. In this case, the Brothers Truck Parts carpet kit came completely ready to install, already had all the provisions and cuts that we needed that'll take care of the floor, along with the sound deadening material. That is a really nice touch. So then you want to take some 3M glue, spray glue, and spray both sides, the carpet and the floor. Let them get tacky, then apply the carpet down onto the floor. The only way the glue sticks is if you have it tacky on both sides. So you gotta let it dry a little bit. Then once you get it down, it's gonna stay down. So you make sure you will have it where you want it because it's gonna live there forever. So the headliner that we installed has a provision for the driver's side visor. Most of these trucks had 1 visor. Sometimes if you got the luxury edition, you get 2 visors. There is a provision in the body of the truck to add a second visor. So I got a kit from Brothers that includes both the hardware and the visors for both sides. You will have to make the holes in the headliner to be able to install the passenger side visor. Make sure you do it right. You can mark it beforehand. You can't see it once it's installed, so you got to mark it before, drill it, cut it, install the passenger side, and that way you got yourself 2 visors. Now this truck has been fully modified. It sits on a 99 S10 chassis. You can tell by the dashboard that it is also modern. The guy's done a lot of work on this before I purchased it. He's even put new age seat belts with reinforced anchors right here. I have to buy the new seat belt cartridge itself because these are locked up. My brothers and I just got the brothers truck projects interior completely done. Sometimes you guys are gonna have to finagle some things, cut some things, modify the aftermarket parts. It's okay, just do a good job, do it correctly. I wanna say thank you to Arish and Bobby for helping me out with this truck. They have to go back to work now, but I do have my mom. And she's gonna help us work the rest of the time. Next week, we're gonna tackle the EFI.
Be sure to check out Sam's Garage on these other media platforms. Send us questions and feedback to info@samsgaragetv.com. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Sam's Garage. Kevin's Jeep now has a rear end that matches those 43-inch off-road tires. Doug can now bump his tunes while driving with the top down in the Mustang. Rod End Supply helped install new tie rods and sway bar links in the Brothers Chevy HEMI truck project. And thanks to Sam's Brothers, the interior is fully installed.